In a world that's taking on a new shape and form, there are silver linings in this change and in this new normal. With that being said, niche domains are gaining a new vigor and are opening up doors across industries. A good example of this would be integration of AI based tools to enhance contact tracing and mass detection. Similarly, bioprinting is opening up new avenues in research across industrial disciplines and is proving to be a great tool in the fight against COVID 19. There are currently more than 120 companies operating in the domain of 3D bioprinting and in some form or the manner across the globe. Some of them shape the ecosystem while the others facilitate it. Join us as we have this fireside chat with two bioprinting CEOs from different geographies with their perspectives of the current status quo and the future of 3D bioprinting. It's my pleasure to introduce Simon Mackenzie, CEO of RegenHU, a 3D bioprinting company based out of Switzerland, and Piyush Padmanabhan, CEO of Next Big Innovation Labs, a 3D bioprinting company based out of Bengaluru and India. Hi, Simon. Hi, Piyush.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Anubha.
Hi. So let's begin with understanding your backgrounds. It would be great if you could provide our viewers with a brief about your professional backgrounds. What pushed you towards the 3D bioprinting industry, a little bit about what your companies do and how it has evolved over the years. Let me start with Piyush.
Hi. So basically, the whole focus for me has been on organ transplantation ever since my I came out of my undergraduation, and I've been working in after post my undergraduation in biotech. I was working in the pharmaceutical industry, specifically focused on renal and liver transplantation segments. And in that space, specifically, you get to understand the big abyss, the gap that is there between transplantable organ demand and availability. And Alok, a good friend of mine from college, the two of us were brainstorming ideas for quite a while about how 3D printing can affect healthcare in the sense. And that's how, at least we started off brainstorming, looking at different ideas as to what can come about in how 3D printing can affect healthcare. We started looking at how we could build, customizable 3D printed skeletal models that could go in as pre-surgical tools. But we ended up doing bioprinting as well, and that's how the focus came around to be around bioprinting, and that's how we looked into bioprinting as an industry, and we started Next Big Innovation Labs. We started it with a core belief that I think most bioprinting companies around the world dream about achieving that they print, which is bridging that gap between transplantable organ demand and availability. People are pushing towards that direction, but still there is some way to go, I believe. But it can only be done when all of us come together on a collaborative basis rather than working in silos separately in our individual geographies or our individual labs. So this is a brief about me. I hand it over to Simon. I think he has a lot more experience than I do.
Great, thank you. Like you, my background is also pharma and biotech. I spent many years in drug discovery, particularly small molecules. But more recently, I moved into the business side, where I was interested in interesting technologies and finding ways to commercialize them. And I was involved in young companies in biomaterials and also stem cells. And it became very clear that on their own, they're interesting technologies, but to be applied to revolutionize medicine is going to require a combination of different technologies and different experts to come together to make something happen. So I was very interested in bioprinting as part of the center point for bringing all these technologies together. And the opportunity came at the end of last year to join RegenHU, and I was very pleased to do so. RegenHU is a bioprinting company. We build bioprinters, hardware and software, and we've been pioneers since 2007. Our focus very much is in building instruments that allow our collaborators, our partners to achieve their goals. And we very much focus in on that hardware and software part and look for collaborators that will then bring the other components needed to make advancements.
Great to hear about that. Uncertainty is prevalent in this, age of COVID-19. What would you consider to be the current status quo of 3D bioprinting research going on around the world? Let's start with Simon.
It's a good question. I mean, there is a commercial aspect to that question as well as a medical aspect. So the commercial aspect first, perhaps. Obviously, it's having very serious effects with business in general, I think universities and companies. And for us, we're just needing to see which countries come back with the funding need to put the funds into this type of research. I think there will be a continued drive in regenerative medicine and tissue engineering just because it is something that's so needed. For me, though, the biggest issue with the COVID has actually been the inability to travel. Now, as I already said, I think we all are in agreement that collaboration is the only way this is going to work. And Teams, Zoom, web conferencing is very good, but it tends to be very transactional and you stick to agendas. But that round the edge of these focused meetings where you can discuss little issues and future ideas is really lacking in this this online meeting forum. And we've not yet found a way to replace that by face-to-face meeting. So that's our biggest, financially, it's a challenge. The biggest issue is not being able to meet people to make collaborations work.
Understood. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. So I think the current status quo. I think you Simon, you hit the nail on the head. When you mentioned that it's in research, it's all about collaboration, face to face, meeting people, and understanding their requirements, working with them. Even us as companies, or even researchers in general who are working in academic setups, and most of the collaborators that we speak with are currently saying that research has all come to a standstill because of the restrictions due to COVID. And but I do feel that there is a lot of I think when times get tough, the tough gets going. And in terms of bioprinting research, I think there is some really, we did a blog last a couple of weeks back on COVID-19, and when we were actually doing the research for the blog, I think a big portion of it showed us who are those people who are actually doing some amazing work in the space. And it's really interesting to see the kind of work that 3D bioprinting is bringing about in terms of bringing on miniature lung models that can be used for testing and things like that. But I think overall, generally, even if COVID was there or not there, the status quo of the industry is that we need more collaboration and looking at people working together, companies working together, researchers working together, or companies and researchers working together in order to, actually bring about a change that, we as bioprinting, folks working in bioprinting want to see. And I feel that level of collaboration is building. Even if COVID wasn't there, it was building. It's good to see that. But yes, I feel it's just a matter of time that we get to a point where there are more collaborations and more breakthrough technologies coming out of 3D bioprinting, be it on the engineering, be it on the biomaterials. But one of the most interesting spaces to look out for is the biomaterial space, which I think needs a lot of work and requires a lot of research. But if there's a breakthrough made there, there will be a big dent in the entire progress that bioprinting is making.
Great, great. I get what you're trying to say here. Let's move ahead. What do you think are the key drivers for growth in the industry given the current circumstances? Let's start with Piyush for now.
Yeah. I feel the key drivers for growth in any industry are people. So if you're looking at, if you're looking at an industry to grow, you need people who are going to work in the industry and people who are excited about bringing in something new into the industry. And bioprinting being a niche space, we do recruitment in India, but we also had the opportunity to speak with folks around the globe, and what we understood is that um, people are either not aware of the technology or they've just had a taste of it in terms of 3D printing or working in biomaterials specifically. And I think a key growth factor for bioprinting is getting more and more people to come on into the field of bioprinting. And I think there are brilliant minds out there in terms of biomaterials and tissue engineering and engineering that can actually make a big difference in the domain of bioprinting. Another key factor is collaboration, which I think this is the third time I'm stressing upon, but it's about people working together and people coming in together to make things happen. I think these two are the biggest drivers for me, specifically when it comes to bioprinting.
Okay, okay. Simon?
Okay, I would agree with everything you said. I think I would also maybe to expand from my view. So 3D printing has obviously become mainstream, very well established, whereas 3D bioprinting is still a very much infant technology in terms of end applications. But I do think that 3D printing has shown the way, has shown how this type of technology can become accepted and totally revolutionize industries. And so I think the medical industry, whether it's tissue engineering, regenerative medicine, will be revolutionized by 3D bioprinting when it becomes mature. The status quo, I think, again, we've talked through, I see it as a triangle. At one point, there are the bioprint manufacturers, the instrument and the software manufacturers, and the other 2 points are the cells and the biomaterials. And I think all three of us are still finding our way at the moment. There are great advances in cells and what you can do with stem cells that you can imagine could be applied to a bioprinting platform. But scale is a huge challenge at the moment. Biomaterials, there are advances every day in novel biomaterials. But again, we see that there still are not one biomaterial that will solve a great problem for medicine. So I think there's still many years worth of biomaterial research. And then in the instruments themselves, they're very much still research tools. So that's interesting when we're developing new protocols, but when it actually comes to the end product, I think we're going to need to look at new ways of doing it. So I think if, as a different slant to the question of status quo, I think the industry or the whole area is still in early days. But if you look 10 years ahead at where 3D printing's got to, I think that's where we will be.
Yeah,
Definitely.
completely agree. Yeah.
In some more years to go.
Yeah, hopefully not too many.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Because I think two of the main factors holding back, clinical translation is, I think, proper biomaterial research will actually get us there,
Yeah,
and the engineering to go side by side. And people have worked for 30 plus years to figure out how cells work outside the human body. I think the more amount of research needs to be done on what materials can be used in terms of engineering. But you hit the nail on the head on that.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
We're in agreement.
Yeah.
I think even the regulatory aspect, the sooner it is solved, the better it is for people, to go into the transplantable
Yeah.
side or even on the in vitro side. Like things are still
Yeah.
starting to kick off, and you still have a long way to go even for regulations. The
Yeah.
faster that gets solved, the better it is for people in the long term.
True. True,
Yeah.
true.
So there's some interesting research happening globally in this field, be it engineering, tissue engineering, or biomaterials. What, according to you, should be the focus areas of research in 3D bioprinting? And what are the research projects you find really interesting currently?
I think we've covered a lot of this already. And
Yeah.
the challenge is that it requires many different experts to be brought into one goal. And a lot of the problems I think at the moment that we see is that everyone focuses on their own area and pushes their own area forward. And that there's
Yeah.
not that level of communication. So when you say about research projects, I think we are involved in a few European funded projects that bring
Okay.
us consortium. And I think we've already mentioned earlier, the consortium approach, where you bring experts with a common vision, common
Okay.
end goal. If that is getting something through regulation into a patient, it might be today seem too far away. But I think you have to have that really great future goal and then bring the best experts you possibly can together to solve the problems. And one of those projects we're involved in is called Organ Trans. And that is a multidisciplinary where we are developing new technologies that will allow certain types of printing to take place, but it also brings in other equipment providers plus the biology. So we've got experts in different types of tissues, so that together we can look to see, can we create even parts of organs or tissues that have the potential to be transplanted at some point. And I think it's an interesting project, but more I think is an interesting model in that these people have come together. They all have very active research groups. They've all come together, and then by meeting everyone, you start to understand the issues that the other side have. It's
Yeah.
great. Someone who's got cells and they say, well, I just wish to print my cells in a 3D shape, and they need to live, and I need to do it in 5 minutes. And you say, well, that's fantastic, but today's engineering technology doesn't allow you to do that.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you say, well, we've developed some technologies maybe that will help you vascularize your tissue, which is another big issue. And they're like, yes, but I've not put that into my model. So it's bringing people together, communicating, and bringing the best minds to one specific mission, one specific purpose that I think we find are the best projects.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think in terms of with the you said organ trans.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a really good initiative. I think bringing the best minds together to work on something that is much bigger than all of us individually.
yeah,
I think is really good, and that is where I think the focus areas also should be for the industry. I'm in complete agreement that it should be. So when you're looking at it from an engineer's perspective, it's difficult for them to look at it from a cell biologist lens, and it's vice versa. So, and it's when a person's actually building a machine, I think it's important for them to put themselves on into the customer's shoes. And I think when someone's creating a biomaterial, look at both aspects of things, I guess. But I think the what you're trying to do with organ trans is pretty much what I stand for as well. Looking at it from another person's shoes, looking at it as, okay, if I'm a cell biologist, what can be the improvements that can be in the engineering that can actually drive research further on the cell biology side, or even reaching one step closer to a reality where we can actually print organs. So I think it will take some time. It will take some dedication from people and cooperation and collaboration amongst folks. Um, I would only add one more thing. I would say that it would be much better if it's on a global scale. something like organ trans happening on a much more global scale with multiple countries, people working across, across geographies coming together, putting their minds together. Because if you look at it, there's some amazing research happening in Israel. There's
Yeah.
some amazing research happening in India because we have spoken to a couple of researchers who are one step away from taking it to clinical, not a vasculated model, but more of a bioprinted model, a 3D printed model, bioceramic structure that they're looking at. So there are a lot of there's a lot of interesting research that's happening globally. People have solved different problems, but it's the problem solving that has happened in one side of the world only goes to the other side of the world through papers and not through
Yeah.
communication. And I think bringing in a common forum for bioprinting will take it one step further with people from multiple disciplines coming together, because bioprinting is always a marriage of multiple disciplines, different people coming together to work.
Great,
Agree with
great.
you. Yeah.
So, yeah. So the impact of 3D bioprinting transgresses domains and disciplines. This opens up, create career opportunities as well. What, according to you, are the career prospects with respect to 3D bioprinting currently? And what avenues do you see the domain 3D bioprinting open up in the future?
Yeah.
Let's start with Simon. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. I think we've covered a lot of this. I mean, obviously, we're not there in any of the technologies. So I think there's great demand for everybody from engineers, both hardware and software engineers, microfabrication. And then on the other side, you've got chemists and biologists for biomaterials. And then the cell biology. There are so many challenges that there are only going to be a growing number of opportunities for people in this field. And then we briefly mentioned it, but the end goal of this is to have an instrument that is in, I don't know, a clinic or in a pharmacy or a hospital that's actually creating the organs, that is creating the materials that are going to go to the patient. And that job doesn't exist today. It's some
Yeah.
form of manufacturing job. And quite where that point of production is, we're going to need people that are skilled at the art of bringing all these things together in one and generating the end product. And I mean, for us, we are very much focused on that end goal of having that instrument in as a production instrument, as a biofabrication instrument. And so we're already designing features into our hardware and software that would allow people to be able to use them. So you don't need to be an expert. So it's not an expert in engineering or a software expert or even a cell biology expert that I'm thinking of. This is going to be a biofabrication expert. That's a job of the
Okay.
future.
Great
Yeah.
initiative.
So yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really great to see some amazing engineering coming out, and I think engineering is key in terms of pushing the needle more closer towards, like you said, getting this technology into a clinic or this into a hospital. So it does make a big difference. And I would say that the current, I mean, with the level of growth that is there in the research globally, I feel people who are looking at PhDs in terms of an academic prospect, people who are looking at PhDs, that there's a lot of research that's happening around globally, and you just have to look for the right thing that piques your interest and see what works for you. But on more of an industrial perspective, yes, there is work that is happening on the R&D, both on the engineering, biomaterials. There are companies working on building tissues. But all these companies are looking at a dream where you can actually take it to the market at some point. Get their products into the market. So you also need people who know how there are 120 bioprinting companies globally, and if you're looking at all of them, I'm sure at least 60% of them would require sales and marketing, and they would require a good number of folks who are actually coming in and making a difference to actually get the word out there on what they've built. I think that's a really good career prospect with respect to bioprinting. If you're not looking at R&D as a job, and apart from that, I would say that there is amazing research happening globally on printers as such, and I think it is more about niche domain expertise that would actually give you an upper hand or an upper edge over whatever you see there out in the crowd.
Wow. Very interesting. I mean, I didn't know there are so many opportunities lying in 3D bioprinting. Whenever you hear 3D bioprinting, okay, it's bio. That means you just need people who are coming in from this biotech background, or people who are just interested in working with cells. But you get to understand how, you actually need engineering also drive this entire process. Without engineering, you cannot work with biomaterials. You need the bioprinter to work and put in your biomaterials and get your tissues. So, well, this was a really interesting discussion. The world does need new innovations to come to fore and create a paradigm shift for research and employment. Thank you again, Piyush and Simon, for taking out the time. And it is companies like RegenHU and NBIL that can drive the change on a global scale. We truly did get, different geographical perspectives on the current and the future prospects of 3D bioprinting. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank
It was
you.
to you both.
It was great to be on this. Thank you.